Hi everyone, my name is Tarah-Lynn Saint-Elien and you are joining us at the Westfield Film Festival. Today we have Kat Graham.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, hi. We are awarding her with a Humanitarian Award for the work that she has done with refugees and animals and just human rights. Thank you so much for all you do.
Human and furry rights.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh
I'm
my
happy
gosh.
to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you.
Yeah.
First of all, what does your shirt say?
Oh, it says one family torn apart is one too many.
Yeah, wow. So like what's the story behind that?
Well, this is, every time I go on a mission, I get a free UNHCR shirt. Mm-hmm. So I just figured this would be appropriate and I wanted to wear it.
Perfect. And a red power suit.
Just a little red power suit, yeah.
So I see you like at Fashion Week, see you killing it in the Balenciaga.
Oh, that's sweet, thank you.
Paris Fashion Week. And you're just doing so much. Congrats with your collaboration now with L'Oreal Paris.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my gosh. So with everything that you do, how do you find time to give back?
Well, with every kind of mission or focus that I do, we really schedule them way out. Like we're already, focusing on like the work and the groups that we're going to be working with in 2020. Like I'm already planning my next mission to Africa and possibly Bangladesh. And I didn't really plan on being an animal rights activist at all. Somebody asked me one time like what my favorite food was, and I mentioned being vegan, and then it winded up being like it totally spiraled. And then Peter asked me to do stuff, and I'm like, sure, why not? But I really feel like my main mission on this earth is to really just tell stories of the voiceless. So, any sort of role that I take or any sort of project that I kind of undergo in the humanitarian space is always about telling stories that those that don't have necessarily the platform that I do will have it through me. So that's really, and it's nice to be honored for it. It's surprising. I don't think I've done what I really want to do. So I'm like, oh, it's nice. I'll just go and hang out with them. But,
Yeah, so what do you really want to do?
Well, I mean, in the end, I'm hoping to at least like have like a couple orphanages, and that I can build music centers in different refugee camps. Because music is really healing. So we're working on that right now, which is one of the reasons that I'm heading to, I guess it would be East Africa next year. So like those are my like dreams, and then like really telling stories of different artists in Black history that. Different biopics, stories that haven't been told. I'm really interested in doing those. So
yeah. So speaking of Black history, you got a PSA. You made a PSA about Black Lives Matter. Yeah. You got an Emmy for it. So
we got Emmy nod. I didn't get the Emmy.
Okay, Emmy nod. It's Emmy. Okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's okay.
Again, I don't make anything or do anything for like awards. Like I just figure I'll never get an award for anything, so I don't try. Like I don't campaign for anything. But I was sitting next to this man by the name of Van Graves. I had no idea who he was, and he winded up being like the president of a big branding agency, and he was feeling a little, I wouldn't even say frustrated. He just had this idea that he wanted to really tell, the story that he wanted to tell. And I was like, well, I'll do it, and he was like, well, who's gonna pay for it? I'm like, well, I'll pay for it. I believe in it. I think it's a great story. So me and my partner, my love, Darren, and I got together, and he shot and was a cinematographer, and I produced it. I just funded the whole thing. So it's just important that these stories get told, and get told with integrity, and that we try and show. It's not enough to just say, I want to be a voice for people. It's also telling their stories with such truth and honesty that people will feel the compassion and the empathy to make a difference, so that they see maybe that PSA and they'll want to, they'll have a clear understanding, of why the system is the way it is and what we can do to, counteract it, really.
Mm-hmm. So in the video, you said something like a hoodie shouldn't be a probable cause. And so I was wondering what made you choose that specifics?
That was actually Van Graves' quote. That was something that he really felt connected to. And, I actually just got racially profiled in Paris at the airport. sometimes I get recognized, and also like having been really sick, I was just like completely covered up and only my eyes were showing. And I was just completely snuggled up and incognito. And somebody came up to me who didn't even know where I was flying to. He said, "Wherever you're flying to, we're gonna check your carry-on bag." And I was like, because I'm brown and I have my face covered, and it was probably one of the first times I'd been racially profiled, other than, you know, racism that I've encountered from being the only black girl on a white show. So it was really interesting, and I called him out on it, and it was dealt with. But I think being racially profiled is something still very much existent in America, all over, obviously, the world. But I think that, you know, it's not a sexy topic, it's not fashion, it's not Balenciaga, you know, the stuff that I have been really focused on, it's not necessarily what people want to hear. But it definitely exists. And I think if people look at me and they're like, they might think of a certain type of lifestyle that I have, but, you know, I live in like the south of Georgia, and I encounter a lot more than people think I do. So I think in terms of the Black Lives Matter spot, it's just important that we, you know, be aware as a global community that racial profiling absolutely does exist, and what are you contributing to the world and to yourself and to the consciousness of the world to racially profile anyone, whether they're black, white, you know, Middle Eastern, you know, what are you doing to, are you changing the dynamic of how people view each other, or are you adding to the conflict, you know?
Speaking about the struggles overseas, I just see you doing so much with Syria and just everything in the Middle East. I recently came across a video. It was this girl, her name was Malak. I don't know, have you seen it? It went viral. And I forgot who was doing it, but they were researching her life, and her parents had died in war. And the guy who was filming it was talking about like just how passionate he was and how he needed to find her again. How do you deal with getting attached to the people overseas, and like, have you ever revisited? And yeah,
I get attached to everyone I meet. I get attached to my fans. I'm very emotionally attached to most people that I encounter. Anyone that I have like a grounded conversation with, they put an imprint on me. My first mission with the UN was in Jordan at the Zatri refugee camp, and that was before the Syrian crisis had grown so much that they had to open up an additional camp. And I remember this little girl that I met, and it was pretty cold on the camp, and nobody had jackets, very few, and a lot of people didn't even have shoes. I mean, these people just fled for their lives, and having just clothes on their back, I think, and their family was more than enough in their minds. So I remember her I gave her my jacket because she looked freezing, and I had this kind of like the fluffy black jackets that, you know, you just wear on sets or whatever. I just had one. And I gave it to her, and she kind of ran off, and I wanted to say bye to her, and they're like, "Oh no, she's not coming back because she thinks you're going to ask for your jacket back." And I was just like heartbroken to realize that this is the only jacket she might have for a very long time. So you become attached, and I think that's the blessing, you know, that you have these memories where you're like, well, I can't stop, you know. This one girl, Bilal, who's in Ethiopia at the Melkadita camp, is trying to get an education right now. But in the Somali culture, you know, in women, it's usually frowned upon to kind of step out and really get a job for themselves. A lot of them are, you know, dealing with early marriages and things like that. So for her, she's risking her life and her safety just to have what her view is freedom. So, you know, you become attached to that. So you can't just let it go. I mean, I just don't let things go. I become hyper obsessed with an idea, and I have to see it out until it's full completion. So if there are certain things happening at the Melkadita camp, like I was just in, which is why I'm sick, I was just in Geneva right after Paris Fashion Week. So you go from like all this crazy fashion stuff to sitting down with the UN and saying, what can we do? But what's so great is that it's important to balance it, you know. I don't think I'd be a happy person if I just lived all in this like acting, music, fashion world, you know. I met a couple people that I actually really idolized in fashion this past fashion week, Paris, Milan, all of that in New York. and they were pretty like self-consumed, and I was really disappointed, and I actually like that's when I did my post about the actually the Nakivale camp in Uganda, because for me it's like you think that what's important is important. It's not important. It's not, who cares about being some famous actor, or who cares, like a lot of people look at Instagram and they're consistently saying, well, that person has more followers, that person's more famous, or that person has more awards, that person's more successful. At the end of the day, when you're on your deathbed, like, are you gonna really care about how many more followers you had? You know, so I'm trying to live from a state of like awareness and practicing awareness, and trying to help people that are constantly needing support and help, that, you know, would do more than what I'm doing if the tables were turned. So, you know, baby steps.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your attachment, because that brings awareness here over in the States. And it's just so important for us all to know. So just really thank you so much for all that you do.
You're so sweet.
Oh, thank you. And congrats for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciated just sitting down with you.
That's very cool. Well, you're such a bright light. You're so cute. You're the perfect person to do this interview.
Thank you.